can guide me along, right? Like.
So Chris, you're here in our home by chance, and I asked to steal an interview, and you were talking about how your work in metalwork, you're a metalworker, has a big artistic bent, but also its origins in race cars.
Yeah, form and function.
Form and function
is kind of the balance of everything we do, right?
Yeah.
And create, from the technologies that we pilot to the houses that we live in, right?
So I hear that space of form and function, and I wonder whether you can bring us into like what is the meaning for you of pushing your medium, like the metal, to its max? You know, you talked about going fast or slow, or how hot it gets.
Yeah, I mean, my background in racing, in motorsports, is a deep passion. So combining all of my skill sets from building houses and machine shops over the years and welding has created an opportunity for me to create an environment where I can build all of these things, all these ideas that I have in my head, be it for the race car or technology-wise, renewable energies. I have an interest in that side, aerospace. You know, it just becomes limitless the more tools you put in your toolkit, right? The more processes you can master and explore along the way. So it's all kind of begun with building railings in people's houses, you know?
And if I had more context of metalwork, and we were talking, like, if you were talking to someone who had a deep understanding of metalwork itself, can you bring me into the, like, what are you working for? What are your constraints when you're working with metal at its, and pushing it to get, like, if you were building an F1 vehicle, like what are the
I think what you're looking for is like there's physical material constraints.
Yeah.
Right. And if I was discussing this with another metal worker, we might get into the vocabulary surrounding metallurgy and what happens to steel when you heat it.
Yeah.
The different types of steel, carbon steel and mild steel, and then exotic materials like titanium in race cars and magnesium alloys and aluminums. So there's a lot of scientific constraints, and then the physical constraints on each material property too, right? So you know, those are things I've stumbled into learning about aerospace materials and properties, and structures, how they're designing airplanes to be, you know, expanding and contracting. So if I'm discussing with another metal worker, if it's, you know, like more of a residential metal worker, he might be less interested in the exotic materials. But if it's an automotive metal worker, we might have a discussion about titanium and you know, chromoly alloys and more exotic stuff like that.
What does titanium allow you to do? Like,
titanium's extremely light and strong, and has some good flexible properties to it. You know, so mainly you're using it for strength and you really to cut weight. Yeah. You know, like you're using it in an airplane because you need the vehicle to be strong, corrosive resistant to the elements, be able to handle cycles of expansion and contraction without fracturing. Yeah. Right. And be really be really freaking light. You know, like so that's where it ties into race cars too. Yeah. You know, plus it has a cool sound for exhaust. You know. So
I don't understand that. What do you mean it sounds
well?
Cool sound
I think it has just a different echo, like a different acoustics. You know, personally, you know, when you hear a titanium exhaust on a race car, it sounds pretty rad. Yeah.
Where is the titanium in the whole body or the actual?
The exhaust pipe. Sorry.
Exhaust pipe.
Yeah, like your tubing for your muffler and your tailpipe.
So what do you hear? Is it? It's a higher pitch. It's a
little more echoey. I think personally. You know, almost kind of like a raptor bird or something, you know, if you had like a dinosaur or something like that. You know, whereas staying in the steel and other mild steels, you know, they're just going to add more weight. But yeah, we're going on a tangent there.
Okay, but this is the second time you mentioned dinosaurs, and there's something about the ancientness of, you know, working with these resistant materials that we haven't always been able to manipulate. That's a relatively new
Yeah,
technology.
the Iron Age, right? The Iron Age of
Yeah.
humanity.
But you use dinosaurs as a metaphor, I guess, to embody what you're actually wrestling with.
Yes, with the race car itself, I think of like taming a T-Rex from the Jurassic movies, right? Like our interpretation of what a T-Rex is like from the Jurassic Park movies is a fun fantasy, right? But it's got this raw intensity to it, right? That when I pilot a race car, it's almost like you're taming that inner beast of the car, right? So that's where I use it as a metaphor, because it can seem like this violent, intense machinery that's just screaming loud.
Yeah.
But then once you're inside the cockpit, it's a little bit more serene than that. You're at peace with the beast.
Eye of the storm.
Yeah, you're in the eye of the storm,
Wow.
and you're extremely focused, and your senses are heightened. Yeah. So it's a completely different experience being in a race car as to watching a race car on the sidelines. Like it's an interesting sport like that for me, right?
Yeah.
There's the constraints of the financial side, but just the experience between spectator and performer, or athlete.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
That's really interesting, because I think your average person knows race cars as very loud, but to think of, I guess they're also wearing mufflers. And
they are still loud in the
stuff,
car, but it's not like you're not getting that Doppler. It's just a constant. Like imagine being in an airplane. Like if you've ever
becomes like white noise almost, maybe.
Totally, yeah. Like if you've flown in a small prop airplane, it doesn't sound like what it looks like when you're watching on the ground, right? It's a different. It's peaceful. You're floating around, so it's very like that in a race car as well. And then there's just like that level of intensity. It's more like a fighter jet, than just bopping around in a Cessna. Like you're throwing yourself around. G-forces, it's dangerous. It's intense like that. But
Okay. Okay. I think one of your words is dinosaur for sure.
One of my words is dinosaur. Intense.
And the heat of the acoustic experience is really interesting too, because fire itself growls.
Yeah, that's right. Fire is
a
dynamic
musical
thing
aspect
happening.
to it.
Yeah.
In that transformation.
Yeah, I think I look at my mechanical things like that, like a race car is more of a, not an organism, but it's not just an inanimate object to me. Like it's this thing that evolves. You have a relationship with a race car.
Yeah. Like
it's, even if you build one from scratch, it's not good to go right off the bat. You have to get to know it. You have to adjust it to perform to your liking under the circumstances that you're racing it, right? Like if it's raining, if it's dry, and then those conditions are changing all the time. The car's getting bounced around, so then you got
wet track and
the track conditions, the weather conditions, the type of track, the type of driver. There's all these parameters that you have to develop a relationship with the car and understand the car's personality, right? It's even two exactly same cars, they hit bumps differently, and things get bent a little bit, and shit changes, every time you go out. So
it sounds almost like when you really know a car, it's personified. You're giving it sort of character. To understand those nuances.
Maybe this is why people named cars for so long, right?
Yeah. And ships and guns and
all of the things
we rely on to bring us to the edge of capacity.
Yeah, totally. Isn't that neat?
Yeah, that feels complete. Thank you, Chris.
Was that a long one?
No.
Was that too much?
No, that was perfect.
Do I have my PhD now? It's easy to get on a tangent because, like,